And welcome everybody. My name is Agnieszka Carpenter and I'm the Executive Director of BioME, and welcome to our legislative briefing, Life Sciences in Maine. I would like to especially welcome our state representatives and senators who are joining us today for this event, as well as our bioscience community of Maine. We will have some great speakers with us today. Just a couple of logistics. Our chat is on, so I encourage everybody to leave your questions in the chat. We can get back to them at the very end. I see some activity in the chat already. Please utilize the chat to say hi. Also, introduce yourselves if you feel like doing so. And this event in particular is sponsored by Biotechnology Innovation Organization, a great organization out of DC, who we work with very closely. I also wanted to thank our annual sponsors. We have some great organizations supporting us, and without those organizations, we wouldn't be able to put together programs like this one. And I do want to just go over the agenda real quick. So we will start with some welcome remarks from our two honorable state representatives, Representative Susan Austin and Representative Tiffany Roberts. We also have Ben Chandok from Biotechnology Innovation Organization say a couple words. Then we're going to move to a very quick briefing from BioME on the state of life sciences in Maine. And then we'll get to a panel discussion and 3 very short presentations from our panelists. We are focusing on startup companies today, just to introduce you maybe to companies that you're not aware of. And then we will end with a Q&A session. Okay, so with that, I would like to ask Representative Susan Austin just to say a couple words on behalf of the Maine State Legislature.
Wow, thank you. Good morning, Maine, and good morning, Maine, BioME Associates. I am Representative Sue Austin. I hail from my hometown of Gray, which is also home to Enacon Technologies. I have portions of Raymond, which is home to Save the Yachts and the Nathaniel Hawthorne's early childhood home. I have portions of Casco, which is home flagship to the 5th generation Hancock lumber, which you could have all heard of and seen in Maine. And I have all of Fry Island, which is the only freshwater island town in Maine, freshwater island town in Maine. So that is my district. And my real claim to fame today is that I serve on the committee of, it's called IDEAB, say that 3 times before 3 cups of coffee, which stands for Innovation, Development, Economic Advancement, and Business. And you folks, you are the epitome, and you're the example of that very statement of our committee. And that's why you come under our jurisdiction. Through this association and working with Agnieszka, I have had the pleasure of the association coming out to our Grain-Augusta Middle School, I believe on at least 2 visits to meet with our students. And I'm so pleased that they were, excuse me, that they were able to have that experience. I think it was wonderful for them, and I hope we can keep that up. And now, due to Zoom, I can't see all of you. But I think this is a perfect opportunity for me because this is the committee that I have been on for my entire tenure of service to the state of Maine and to my constituents. So I've had some wonderful opportunities to see the things that you folks have done, the projects, the research, and the end results. And all I can say is it is one of the joys that I look forward to hearing about and learning about. And I can't thank you enough for all of your work, the value that you bring to Maine and to Maine people, and actually far beyond our borders. You are a blessing, and I try very hard to make sure that my constituents and the people that I associate with or work with know about the wonderful things you do, because it's like everything, I don't want to say you're a well-kept secret, but obviously some of your projects are. And our people need to know how valuable the things are that you do. And it gives them nourishment, it gives them hope, and it helps them to continue to work hard to knowing what you're doing. So I am really very pleased to be here with you, and I'm excited to hear about all the things you're going to tell us. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Representative Austin. That was really, really nice. I actually had an opportunity to speak in front of the IDEA committee, and I just have to say I felt super welcome, and I felt a lot of support from you, the entire committee. So thank you for that again. Next on the agenda, we do have Representative Tiffany Roberts, the House Chair of that committee. I'm not sure if Representative Roberts is with us today. Are you with us, Representative Roberts? Okay, I did not see her on the list. Perhaps she's running a little late, or maybe hopefully nothing happened. But so with that, I think I would like to hand it over to Ben from Bio. Bio, as I mentioned, is a sponsor of this event.
Thanks, Agnieszka, and it's very nice to see some familiar faces on the participant list and many new ones too. So as Agnieszka said, I am Ben Shindoke. I'm the State Government Affairs Director in the Eastern Region for Bio. Bio is an international trade association of more than 1,100 companies, academic institutions, state biotech centers. We work both at the state and federal level in the United States as well as internationally. On behalf of our members are involved in research and development when it comes to healthcare, agricultural, industrial, environmental, biotechnology products. Specifically, Bio proactively engages on economic development policies. For instance, we work on workforce training initiatives as well as best practices for states that are looking to build strong biotech ecosystems in their states, and of course on the federal level as well. We also federally and state work and help states interested in addressing climate issues. Many of our companies are engaged in renewable energy products and biofuels and otherwise. We also advocate, obviously, reactively to any proposals that we think could stifle innovation or de-incentivize venture capital investment in the biotechnology sector as it continues to grow in Maine and elsewhere. So Bio, of course, is very proud to support BioME here in Maine, as well as the other 45 other state bioscience associations throughout the country. And we work together very closely on all of those efforts. So Agnieszka, thank you very much for having me. And if I could ever be a resource to any of you, please don't hesitate to contact me. I'll put my email in the chat, and always feel free to reach out. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Ben. We truly appreciate all that Bio is doing for us, but also just nationally for the biotech community. Okay, I do see in the chat that Representative Sarah Pebworth let us know Representative Roberts has some internet issues, so we wish her all the best. I have had internet issues all week. Hopefully none of that will happen during this event, because that's the world of Zoom, unfortunately. Okay, so I will now share my screen. I prepared a short presentation. Hopefully everything will be working here. So I do want to go over some of the highlights of what BioME is doing, what we have been doing in the past year, and just a couple data points on the bioscience sector in Maine, which hopefully after this presentation will not be the best kept secret, as Representative Austin mentioned. So BioME is a membership-based bioscience trade association. We have over 230 members. That's quite a few members, actually. And our mission is to advance bioscience growth and opportunities for the life sciences community of Maine. And we do that through different areas of activity, and that includes events, education, workforce development, economic development, and advocacy. And I will want to touch on each of these just a little bit. Before I do that, I want to show you a larger version of that bioscience map of Maine. This is a very cool map that we developed a couple of years ago, and it's meant to show the diversity and size of this industry. Obviously, all those logos you can see here on this map are not representing the entire number of companies, because there are over 450 life science companies in Maine, but some of the large ones you may have heard of, like IDEX or Abbott, or Jackson Labs. But there are so many more large, medium, and small-sized companies and research institutes. If you're interested in any of them in specific, please contact us. We have contacts to all of them or most of them. Okay. I mentioned events. Events are the core of what we do, really, because they promote the collaboration and innovation here in the state. So usually we do about 10 to 12 events a year. And, you know, before the pandemic, they were all in person, but through the pandemic, we actually developed this virtual coffee hour series. You can see some of those banners here for that event. It's basically an hour event where we invite 4 different speakers, many of them scientists, researchers, entrepreneurs, who talk about what's new, innovative, who talk about their work. And it's just a great way to keep in touch with what the bioscience sector here is doing. And this event is open to all once a month at 10 a.m. on a random day. But if you're subscribed to our emails, then you're able to see when those events are. And if you're not, I definitely encourage you to get in touch with us. We can put you on our mailing list. Other than the coffee hours, we also have some signature events such as Women in Bioscience. That's actually coming up in June. Here on the left bottom corner is the BioME Student Showcase. That's a competition for students. That's coming up in April. And so, you know, as the pandemic is easing up a little bit, we are now transitioning to more in-person events. So both the Student Showcase and Women in Bioscience will actually be in person. We're also hoping to do a in-person BioME networking event in the summertime. So just keep your eyes open for those events because they're a great way to stay in touch, and most of them are open to the public and free to attend. I mentioned STEM education. Representative Austin talked a little bit about Maine Bioscience Day, and I'll get to that in a minute. But it's also worth noting that we are investing dollars into the future of workforce in Maine. So we actually allocate $75,000 annually for scholarships. And right now we're in the midst of granting those scholarships. It's a lot of fun and a lot of work. We grant them to college students to do summer internships, to help with tuition a little bit. We fund students who do research, and we also fund travel to conferences. And those awards are pretty significant. They range between $2,000 and $5,000 each. We also fund middle school students to go to a science summer camp in the summer. And I mentioned a competition for high school and college students where we have cash prizes. And the winner of the Maine BioGenius Challenge actually gets to go to San Diego and compete in international finals. It's all a really great way to fund students and to see them flourish and to nurture our future workforce in the state. One of the biggest STEM education related event that we do every year is Maine Bioscience Day. This is an event in November where we send scientists and biotech professionals to middle schools where they talk about their job, they talk about their workplace, so they raise awareness of what kind of companies and employers are available in the state for anyone who pursues a career in science. You can see some pictures here on the right of students doing hands-on activities. This is an event everybody absolutely loves, teachers, students, and the volunteers. And if you look at these numbers here on the left, we started this in 2018 with only 14 schools. And now in 2021, we were able to reach 52 schools and 7,250 students. And our goal is to increase those numbers every year, which we've been pretty successful at doing. And I wanted to share a short video, just show you what Maine Bioscience Day is all about. I hope this will work. It's always an unknown on Zoom whether a video will play or not, but we'll try it.
From York to Presque Isle, thousands of middle school students from across Maine participated in Maine Bioscience Day 2021. We continued with a virtual format this year, allowing us to expand our reach to 15 Maine counties, introducing 7th grade students to the many job opportunities available in life sciences right in their home state.
It's a whole package. I guess that's what I really like about it. It's got, video, it's got hands-on, it's got real people, it's really engaging for the kids. The kids absolutely, positively loved it. The video presentations, I have to say, are a perfect length for middle school, and they're very engaging for the kids. The presenters were fantastic.
The videos profiled scientists at Abbott, Northeast Labs in Westbrook, and the Mount Desert Island Biological Lab in Bar Harbor.
What I really loved about this year too was the female representation, which was super. Anytime we can make those science connections for our girls, that's really great.
This year, we reached 7,250 students from 52 schools. That's a 271% increase in schools reached since 2018. One of the highlights for students is the hands-on activity. This year, it demonstrated how washing your hands with soap inactivates the coronavirus.
The kids loved it. It was very easy to set up. When you do an activity that the kids, they're talking about it as they leave the class and they're talking about it in other classes, you know you have the winner.
Karen Borm says being able to access Maine Bioscience Day the past 2 years has been a bright spot for her students during the pandemic.
A lot of aha, wow moments, and then connecting that to the career pathways is gold. It's pure gold.
From York to...
Okay, trying to start again. Yeah, so that was Maine Bioscience Day. We're hoping to continue it in a hybrid model in 2023, where we will do some of it online and some of it will be in person. And that way we can reach all sorts of rural areas in Maine, which is very important. Okay, now I do want to talk a little bit about the industry impact and economic development. And I put together just a couple data points. You may be familiar with our industry report that we put together. It looks like this, and every couple of years we update that report, so we have some interesting numbers to report on. And you know, one point I want to make is that bioscience jobs are high-paying jobs. You can see it here on the left. So in 2005, the annual salary for a biotech professional was $56,000, and in 2020 it was $115,000. So it pretty much more than doubled within 15 years. And if you're into market labor data, you'll see that in other industries, it's the growth of that salary has not been as high. The other one I like to talk about is the job growth here on the right, where it says life science job industry growth over the past 5 years. So on average in the United States, life science jobs have grown by 11% over the past 5 years. But in New England, that growth has been much higher. It's not in all states, but in most of them. And you'll see that Massachusetts is the #1 in terms of job growth because they are the #1 hub in the world for biotech. But you can also see that Maine is actually trailing not that far behind with 18%. This is 18% more jobs than we had 5 years ago. That's very significant. And I think that really puts this industry on the map of economic impact in Maine. And lastly, I wanted to talk about the job multiplier. This is in the left bottom corner. For life sciences, that job multiplier in Maine is 2.86, and that means that for every one job created in the life sciences sector, there are 1.86 jobs created in all other industries. And those could be construction, hospitality, food, whatever you might think of. These jobs are creating other jobs. So that's altogether really great. And something that you may have seen this week, there was an article in Maine Biz about NIH funding, and I wanted just to highlight that a little bit. So in 2021, Maine institutions received almost $110 million in NIH funding. NIH is National Institute of Health. You may have heard about it because of all kinds of research done for fighting coronavirus. But something that maybe is not so much talked about is that this funding has an immense economic impact on the state and on all the states. But in Maine, there's over $200 million supported in economic activity because of this money. And it also creates a lot of jobs. Almost 2,000 jobs in Maine are funded through NIH funding. And you can see the top recipients for those awards, Jackson Laboratory being the largest, also Maine Health, MDI Biological Lab, University of New England, and some others. Most of these are our member companies or institutions, so it's really great to see that they're driving the economic machine here in Maine. Okay, this is my last slide, I promise. I just wanted to highlight something. So advocacy is definitely one of our important areas of activity. And so in 2021, we formed an advocacy committee and we hired a consultant. We're working with Main Street Solutions. I see some folks from Main Street Solutions here on this call. It's been a really great collaboration. And, there are people in Augusta. So if you're ever inclined to talk to us, you can talk to them first, or they know a lot about what we do. And so our priorities for this session have been to promote a supportive tax and regulatory environment, to strengthen incentives for innovation and R&D and startups, to increase capital to advance biotech, and to build strong bioscience workforce. And we will continue all of this activity and these priorities next year as well. If anybody's interested in getting involved, please let us know. We are really growing this field right now. Okay, so that's pretty much it. I hope I stayed on time, more or less. And now we are going to move to our panel discussion. I talked about some large companies, large research institutes, but we wanted to really highlight smaller companies today because they are the future, and they are doing some really incredible work here in the state. And we wanted to also show how the state money invested in bonds and in institutions such as MTI are paying back, and what the return on investment here is. So we will be hearing from Dr. Kristy Townsend from Neuright, Cem Giray from Salmonics, and Patrick Breeding from Marin Skincare. I will stop my share right now. And each of these companies will do a very short presentation, and then we'll have some questions that will be more of a panel style. And then we also encourage you to leave questions in the chat. So I think we'll start with Kristy. Kristy's also on our board. Kristy, whenever you're ready.
Great. Okay. Thank you, Agnieszka. And I want to say thank you to BioME and to the legislators for being here today. This topic is especially meaningful to me because I was born and raised in Maine. I'm a University of Maine alum and a former faculty. So I love seeing this growth in bioscience startups in the state. So today I'll give you a brief introduction to our startup company called Neuright Inc. Our tagline is Making Neuropathy Right. And that's because we're focused on the health condition of peripheral neuropathy. So this is when our nerves that innervate our tissues and organs die back. So we lose proper innervation and communication with the brain. Over 30 medical conditions can cause this. The top ones are diabetes, aging, and other idiopathic or unclear causes, chemotherapy, and HIV. For diabetes and prediabetes alone in the US, there's over 100 million people, and it's estimated that 60 to 70% of them will develop peripheral neuropathy. There's no cure and no reliable diagnosis, especially for the small fiber neuropathies that occur with diabetes and aging. The costs right now are huge to patients, over $2,000 a year, to the payers, insurance companies, over $6,000 a year, and $19,000 estimated per year in loss of productivity per patient. So if we have 20 million peripheral neuropathy patients in the US right now, that's billions in preventable costs. So we've developed a new device, a medical device, as a diagnostic to have a more early sensitive detection of this condition in the skin and in the tissues right below the skin. So it's a microneedle array. This is a cartoon of how it works. It sits in the skin and it reaches about 2 to 4 millimeters beneath the skin. So as peripheral neuropathy is progressing and the nerves are dying back to deeper tissue layers, we can detect changes to the nerve electrical activity as that occurs. So our MVP product is called DEN, or Detecting Early Neuropathy. This is a diagnostic only from our patent pending Theragnostic platform, which I'll talk more about in a second. So overall, this is a low cost point of care device. The goal is it could be used in any clinic anywhere for early reliable diagnosis through sensitive measurements of nerve activity through the skin, which is a functional assessment of those small nerve fibers. It's going to eventually be portable, wireless, but it is quantitative and minimally invasive, very pain-free. And future capabilities will be that it can deliver treatments and therapies and collect data about the patient condition. So we just completed our initial preclinical testing in a mouse model that was funded by an NSF STTR. We just did our first human validation assessments, and we're starting later this year a comprehensive first in human testing study in healthy versus neuropathic patients. But you can see here the current prototype that we have. It's a flexible microneedle array that can sit into the leg, very pain-free. The needles are very tiny microneedles. And this is an example of the type of data we're getting where we can pick up nerve electrical activity through the skin. So our product has three main applications. One is screening. Number two is diagnosis of neuropathy. And number three is monitoring, because now we know in academic and biotech pharma settings, lots of new therapies and treatments for neuropathy are on the horizon. So our device would be able to monitor nerve regrowth as those become available. So we've done the screening baseline healthy recordings in mice and in human. We've completed a neuropathy preclinical test in a mouse study, and we start our first in human testing later this year. And in the future, our product also is capable of delivering therapies and treatments as they become available. So I wanted to highlight our team, because that's, for me, one of the most exciting parts of this spin out company is who we get to work with. I co-founded the company with Dr. Magda Blashkevich, who's also an alum of University of Maine. And we have a great team of collaborators who are faculty at University of Maine, including Len Cass, Rosemary Smith, who's one of our co-inventors, Nuri Mantoglu, and Alia Betty. We have some other staff as well based in Orono, Maine, because we are based at the Upstart Center right now. And I just want to say a few more things about our company: that we're a woman-owned, we're a C Corp, we're a UMaine spin-out, and we're a biotech startup. And that's everything from me. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Kristy. I actually just drove by the startup. What's it called again? Sorry, at UMaine?
Upstart Center in Orono.
Upstart, yes, Upstart. I drove by it and I didn't know Neuright is in there, so good to know. Okay, thanks so much again. And now I think we're going to hear from Cem Giray from Salmonics.
Thank you. Let's share my screen real quick. Okay, well, good morning, everyone. Before I start talking about Salmonics, I figured I'd share a little bit about my background. So I came to Maine for the first time in 1980 to attend the University of Maine as an international student from North Cyprus. And I had been awarded a tuition scholarship by the University of Maine as a part of their program to increase diversity of students within the university. And I fell in love with the state, its nature, its people, and the way of life. And for the next 20 years after that, I went back and forth between Maine and Cyprus, doing military service and working in Cyprus and attending the University of Maine to get my bachelor's, master's, and eventually PhD in oceanography and microbiology. And then for the last 22 years, I've been working for a company in Maine, Kennebec River Biosciences, which is a global aquatic animal health company. And just recently, last 6 months or so, I have transitioned from my positions there that I held as laboratory director, chief science officer, eventually as vice president. And I started Salmonics. And Salmonics is based on the utilization of aquaculture salmon blood waste to create high-value biomedical products. So just in Maine, there's about 200,000 liters of blood waste that basically gets tossed out every year. Globally, obviously, salmon production is much higher than in Maine. Just Norway alone tosses out more than 36,000 tons of blood per year. So what Salmonics is aiming to do is to create products from this waste by upcycling it, making biomedical products, and also at the same time returning some of that value back to the aquaculture companies, and hence supporting responsible aquaculture and environmental sustainability. We're in essence trying to create an interface between biotechnology and aquaculture. Our products range from clotting agents to reagents for laboratory use, DNA, salmon and trout serum. We are already marketing some of these products within the US, Asia, and in Europe. There's a number of products that we're also working on developing. Most of these products are being shown as or marketed as alternatives to what's currently being used, which is produced by utilization of human plasma as well as other mammalian sources. And there are a lot of disadvantages to utilization of those. And we hope that salmon blood-related products will be a good alternative for those. The cumulative value of these products globally is over $4 billion. So there's a lot of potential for business there. So setting Salmonics up was quite challenging and exciting at the same time. Getting a startup going, especially while working at another job at the same time, is quite something. There are a lot of things to do. I mean, obviously, getting financing to start with, setting up facilities, renovating space, finding staff, and everything else that goes along with getting staff in place. Logistics of setting up IT, vendors, suppliers, accounting, legal aspects, agreements with distributors, clients, accounting, marketing, and then finally getting into production, which is the ultimate goal. To do this, we had a lot of support, and without that support, we could not have made the strides that we did in such a short amount of time. We have currently 8 employees, including some per diems. We have a scientific advisory board that includes some of the scientists that have worked on utilization of salmon blood for biomedical products. We have individuals from the University of Maine that are helping us, some retired individuals that had been in science for many years, and others. We had financing to start with from investors, personal investment from the town of Richmond and Camden National Bank as loans. We had a grant from Maine Technology Institute to do some of our initial research and development work. We were selected to participate in a mentoring program through the Maine Center for Entrepreneurs, the Bio Startup program. And that provided incredible help in terms of guidance and connections, networking, advice for things that we would not have had time to really figure out and be able to put in place. We've had support from BioME, from Small Business Development Center, CEI, Tech Place, and many others as well along the way. There's a treasure of expertise within the state of Maine and individuals who are actually willing to extend that expertise to companies. We've had equipment financing through CEI. Actually, we're closing on a loan today with them from Mira, as well as additional financing from Camden National Bank. So it's been a pleasure to see the amount of help that's provided companies that are starting out, and that has to really continue along the way. The initial startup, there's a lot of excitement, a lot of attention. There's initial financing, but once things get going and there's full commitment, some of that starts to wane. But it's actually at that stage that companies really need help to make sure that that business succeeds. I guess I won't go too much further, but I'm happy to answer questions. And I hope, thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks for highlighting all of the support system and what helped you on your journey. And we talked about salmon blood, and now we are moving to lobster blood with Patrick Breeding and Marin Skincare.
That was a smooth transition, Agnieszka. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me and for all the legislators for being here. As I share my screen here, I just wanted to share that I, like Cem, came from away to the University of Maine for school, or to Maine for school. You might be able to tell that, unlike Cem, I didn't come in 1980. I'm a little bit younger. And I think I just wanted to share a quick reflection on that. As I was listening to Agnieszka talk about the programs offered, the sponsorships for research, and the Maine Bioscience Day. These things are so important. In my own journey, I was a very average student, not very interested in really anything. I didn't find my calling yet. And I found that through applied knowledge of working in a chemistry lab in my sophomore year at the University of Maine. And I was able to participate in that type of experience because of a research grant. That interest in research and passion, being able to pursue a project, turned into entrepreneurship. And it's so important, just seeing the reach and the increase of the schools that BioME's been able to touch every year. Really important for students to gain that context for interest, especially in rural areas where otherwise that may not happen at any part of their journey. Let me share my screen here. I have less clean slides than the other presenters. It's more of a visual journey. So I am the co-founder and CEO of Marin. We're a skincare brand that creates skincare products for people with dry, damaged skin, using a protein found in lobster as the key ingredient. This journey started at the University of Maine for my partner Amber and I. I met Amber on the first day of undergrad in bioengineering. And we went through our undergrad and master's together, worked on different projects and other startup companies together. And Marin really began when we met this man in the top right here, Dr. Bob Baer, who was the director of the Lobster Institute for many decades. And Bob was always interested in finding different value-added applications for lobster processing byproducts. So very much like what Cem is doing, Bob was always looking into the lobster's circulatory fluid in a protein found in the fluid that you can see at the top right here. There's so much anecdotal research and anecdotal studies been done on all of the different things this protein can do. And Bob was always fascinated with the fact that lobsters could pop off their own limbs and regenerate them and heal wounds and fight off disease. And it's developed this incredibly elite immune system at the bottom of the ocean. And so as we met Bob, it was very convenient for us and Amber, because at the time, as you can see in the bottom right here, she was suffering from incredibly severe eczema. So dry, red, flaky skin all over her body, and particularly on patches on her face. And not only is that uncomfortable and painful, but it's embarrassing, and it creates a really low quality of life for somebody. So Bob was we were doing research in the lab, traditional drug discovery type work, working on viruses and cancer applications, and some of the literature indicated that it might help with dry, damaged skin. And Bob had been making these in his kitchen skincare products. And so with Amber having eczema, we decided, let's give it a try and use one of Bob's products he was making on her skin. And it just so happened, I don't know if it's letting me go forward here, that many late nights working with Bob in his kitchen, formulating some formulations for a skin cream. And as you can see at the top here, when Amber tried it, not high expectations, but within a few days, that visible redness and flakiness and dryness completely calmed down. And her life was changed dramatically. And as her partner, my life was changed as well. So as we were graduating from the University of Maine, we decided to put our eggs in the entrepreneurial basket and bring this to other people like Amber and bring this natural relief to others. So we started Marin. And the first step was to go and build a supply chain. So we found a great partner in Luke's Lobster. So this circulatory fluid and the protein in it that we use in our ingredient is going right down the drain. So we were able to go in, come up with a process for collecting it that's sustainable and ethical, doesn't harm lobsters. It's truly a value-added byproduct for processors. We found a skincare manufacturer. We created the packaging mock-ups and produced our first run of inventory back in October of 2020. I show at the bottom here, we built this out of our home. So we did inventory in the backyard, and when it came time for PR and marketing, our house was turned into a studio. And soon enough, the story really started to pick up because 10% of the US has this eczema, psoriasis, dry, damaged skin problem. And we started to get local, then regional, then national news coverage. And things picked up very quickly for us. So it was built out of this dining room, which was also our home gym, which was also our distribution facility in the top left here, from humble beginnings of getting a few hundred orders out the door, then to now in the last 16 months, getting thousands and thousands and tens of thousands of orders out the door. We've grown very, very quickly. We've been able to bring on our first few employees, some part-time and a full-time employee. We've moved from our house to a 3,000 square foot office and warehouse in Portland. And on the biotech side, I've always nerded out on creating our own lab. And a few weeks ago, we were finally able to create our own lab or the shell of it. And it's been a really, really exciting journey. And I just wanted to share that, all of this is great and the success is great and the story is really exciting, but the best thing for us is to be able to change people's lives. And so people that have suffered with skin conditions for years, for their whole lives, we've been able to really, really change their quality of life. And that's really what we're all about. I'll just leave on this picture of, and the feeling of excitement and gratitude for all of the support we've received from, I have a long list: MTI, Top Gun, Foster Center, MCE, Libra Future Fund, UMaine, Maine Sea Grant, BCD, Greenlight Maine, Bangor Savings, UCU, Scratchpad Accelerator, and many, many more. With the excitement of our rebrand coming, where we're combining modern, clean skincare with heritage Maine into a brand that can sit on the shelf at Target and Ulta just as much as it can at Whole Foods and LL Bean. We want to create mass market Maine for dry, damaged skin, and I'm very excited to make that happen here in Maine. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Patrick. I just reflected a little bit on your journey because you may or may not know that Patrick is on our board as well. And when he first started a couple of years ago, none of this was happening yet. And now you're going to be in Target and Ulta. So congratulations on your success. I'm always at awe at your entrepreneurial spirit and just, you're a true go-getter. Okay, so now I do have a couple questions. So Patrick, you mentioned a lot of different programs that you tapped into, and I wanted to circle back to Kristy. Kristy, how has Neuright used statewide resources as a startup?
Yeah, so we've used a lot as well. I don't think our list is quite as long as Patrick's, but MTI has been crucial. We had a seed grant from MTI, and now we have range 2 funding that have allowed us to get into human. And the MTI also has a TAP program. I forget what that acronym stands for, but they've been critical in helping us apply for federal grants. So our first STTR that was funded, and we just submitted a phase 2 STTR with their help. The TAP program also makes sure that we get good market research and that our finances are in order as a company. So that's really been crucial. And I know now that I'm, based in another state, that this is not available everywhere. This is really a unique thing in Maine. MCE, the Maine Center for Entrepreneurs, has been crucial. University of Maine support, and of course BioME. So yeah, lots of programs in Maine that many of which are state supported.
Great, thank you so much. Patrick or Cem, did you want to also talk a little bit about what was important to you and maybe what was the most beneficial from the state support and funding? Either Patrick or Cem, you can go
Yep,
ahead.
I can go ahead. I mean, starting out is quite tough. There's a lot that needs to be done. Maine Technology Institute was critical at the get-go, both in terms of initial funding and also just making connections to those that provided that help. Maine Center for Entrepreneurs, we were introduced to them through MTI. CEI, we were introduced to them through MTI, which led also for us to work with the Small Business Development Center and get consulting from them. And in terms of the Bio Startup program through Maine Center for Entrepreneurs, that was critical in terms of just speeding up the process. There are so many questions that come up that one does not have the expertise to address, and that provided quick answers and quick guidance, quick direction to a lot of those. And a startup really needs to get going very quickly. There isn't a lot of time, so I think those were the most important.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Cem. And Patrick?
I just think of jumping a few of the critical gaps of the stages of a startup. So the MTI funding and the early stage funding was so important, as you're doing the research and establishing product market fit. And then programs like, I think of the Innovate for Maine Fellow program at University of Maine Foster Center for Student Innovation, which pairs high quality job candidates as interns in a startup company, and oftentimes subsidizes a lot of that cost. So for a company like us, being able to have 5 to 10K in working capital to bring on somebody for the summer could, or not, is the difference in the first hire or not. So some of those types of programs and I think there should be more of them, allowing it to be easier, maybe through tax incentives, maybe through healthcare, making it easier to bring people into the company and support them earlier.
Thank you for those insights. Before we move to the next question, I just wanted to acknowledge all of the activity in the chat. I see all of your comments and have been reading them. Really great to see a lot of folks just having some positive comments. I do see a lot of shout out to UMaine. I actually didn't realize when we put together this panel that all 3 of you came out of the UMaine system. So a shout out to the UMaine system. I see Renee Kelly on the call. And okay, so let's move on to the next question. And I also wanted to just ask if anybody has questions or would like to ask or comment further, please use the chat. We still have a couple minutes. So Cem, your company is a little bit further, I feel like, on your journey. And I wanted to ask a question: at which stage can funding and support be most crucial for the successful longevity of a startup?
Yeah, we have been fortunate in that, part of our establishment was based on asset acquisition from a Maine research and development company that had been working on this problem for about 20 years. So we were able to take some of that technology and some of the products that were already developed and create some revenue early on. But my goal was to really get things going quickly, get the production up to speed as soon as possible. And as Patrick pointed out, I mean, I'm further along, and And I sometimes wonder, why did I start a business so late in life? But hopefully it will all work out. But I think, starting out, yes, funding and all that support is critical for a company to get going. But once things get rolling, the wheels start turning. You've made commitments, you've collateralized your home for the funding that you obtained. Things become a little scarier. And at that point, really, any support and funding becomes critical in terms of the likelihood of success of a startup. So I think while getting startups going early on, that support is great and it's essential. I think there has to be some sustained support as things move along to the first or second year down the road. One of the large problems is, during all this time, you may be not getting any salary, and you're kind of dependent on other resources to fund the rest of your life. And if there was some sort of funding that was available for startup companies that addresses that issue, maybe it's a rolling fund that then gets replenished once the company gets going, it's paid back. That might be a nice way to get around that, because the last thing you want is financial stress while you're working out the practicalities of starting up a company, getting it going and getting into production to become self-sustaining.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Cem, for sharing that. We at BioME look at different policy in different states that have been very intentional with investing in bioscience, and so there are definitely some lessons to be learned there. We look at Massachusetts, obviously, North Carolina, Rhode Island, and we're seeing all kinds of programs that could be potentially a model for Maine. So we'll keep an eye on that, and we encourage everybody to get educated on this subject, but definitely we want more support and more funding for startups as they go on their journey, not only at the very beginning. Kristy or Patrick, did you have anything to add about this? No?
I did. I would just relay how unique and, it's kind of the accelerator model of being able to support the income of the people going and creating companies. That at the top of the funnel of creating biotech companies in Maine, there's people that are starting in and leaving their jobs to go pursue this. I remember there were a group of us, same age group, that came out of the University of Maine to start companies, and we all had to get side gigs or jobs. Imagine if we could have focused and how farther along we could have been. And through the middle stage of the funnel, before we become a large company, there is a gap in being able to support bringing on employees and still supporting yourself. So, I would pose the open-ended question of how can we make it easier to bring high quality talent on earlier or as they're needed.
Okay, thanks. I will ask a question from the chat now. This is from David Eagleson from the Baker Company. What was the biggest gap or challenge you faced in growth? What do you wish had been available to help you more efficiently get past that? Kristy?
I can start on that one because I think we're in the gap right now, which is for us, we're an FDA regulated product. So we're right now needing to manufacture in an FDA compliant way. We're needing a regulatory strategy. Our patent's not in place, so we need to know about freedom to operate. And what we're learning is there's just a ton that we don't know. So I think having good business advice at this stage and having resources available to us that are affordable when we're still quite lean as a startup is really critical. I mean, some of these regulatory strategies or getting our design history file in place are, some companies quote us millions of dollars for these things, and we certainly don't have that budget. So I think those create a gap, especially if you're moving into human in a way that is FDA regulated.
Thanks, Kristy, for sharing that. Patrick or Cem, biggest challenge?
I can go. I guess that the largest challenge has been attaining production capability quickly, because everything is based on revenue starting out. And for that to happen, there are so many things that need to fall into place. For example, getting the right equipment in place, and that takes some time, and a lot of it is based on funding as well as space. I think if somehow one can speed that up, I think the likelihood of attaining production and self-sustainability and success increases.
Okay, thank you. Patrick, any last thoughts?
I think for us, it was a little bit similar to Kristy in that we're young. This is our only career, and it's all been the unknown. So the ability to see around corners and see what comes next and see how this has been done is really important. And I think that, I'm not saying that's a gap, because I think it's being solved with Techstars, with MCE, with the accelerators and mentoring programs, but the venture only grows to the ceiling of the leadership's capacity. And so if the leadership is continuously learning and growing and learning and growing, how can you expedite that through systems or programs?
Okay, thank you so much. I think we're going to start wrapping up here. I wanted to thank you so much for being with us today and sharing all of your thoughts and insights. I'm very happy that we were able to highlight the startup scene here in Maine a little bit, and just to draw a little more attention to the challenges that you're facing and to all of the support system that exists. That's something we want to see get even bigger. You all mentioned MTI and MCE. We work with both of these organizations pretty closely. They actually are both on our list of sponsorships. So thanks so much to those organizations as well, because as we see, they're crucial for the development of startups in Maine. And our next event is next month. It's the Student Showcase. It's going to take place at Cloudport in Portland on April the 27th, and it is open to the public. So if you're interested in seeing students compete and see some amazing student research, this is high school and college level, you're invited. Everybody's invited. And then the next one will be Women in Bioscience in May, either late May or early June. So please stay tuned. And once again, thank you to all of our state legislators for joining us today, for everything you do. And thanks to our community. We'll see you next time. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks so much. Hopefully the next legislative event will be in person in 2023. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.